I'm feeling a little anticipation, let me tell you. Right now, it is time for the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. Terry is in, and I saw you doing some pumping up sort of exercises a minute ago. You're punching the air a bit rocky, right? Yeah.
Oh, appropriate.
Are you in the mood?
Well, I'm getting in the mood.
Okay, this is always a good thing. That's always good.
I'm always in the mood for Edge Radio, Aaron.
Oh, I love that.
I am always in the mood. So thank you for having me on the show, because tonight we do not have a guest.
We don't?
The Genius Zone.
Okay.
We still have a happy hour.
All right.
So that's good news.
Hey, you don't always have to have a guest, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I actually
going to make the most of it, because there's going to be a couple of weeks' time we won't be able to do this.
Right. Why is that? What's going on?
It's the guests that I have coming on the show.
Right.
And look, I do have to say, disclaimer, that, it's okay to have a drink as long as you are in control of the drink and the drink is not in
control of you.
So if we are triggering anyone, or people find themselves being tempted because we're, sitting back having a bit of fun, it's 5 p.m. somewhere in the world, and we're enjoying a quiet one, a cold.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
A little, glass of Prosecco to actually. Do you know I paid $60 for a bottle of Prosecco on the weekend?
Was it a bit special? It had to be a bit special.
Well, I asked for a bottle of Prosecco,
right,
and I think they gave me the most special bottle in the house. But I do have to say, it was very enjoyable, and I had a really, really good day.
Okay.
So, you've got to have these good days. And, in a world gone crazy, Aaron, with everything going on right now, I am really keen on addressing the topic on confidence. And the first person that comes to my mind is the person who currently has the most influence and the most, I believe, this is my personal opinion, the most likelihood of changing the world.
Okay, who might that possibly be?
Me, of course. No, just
You have so much influence. What? Jeez. Tickets, anyone? Tickets.
No, Donald Trump.
I know. I knew exactly where you're going.
Of course, it is Mr. Trump himself. I mean, when we are telling, ceasing missiles, negotiating between one, country to another, and he's even using an F-bomb. Did you hear him use the F-bomb?
I was actually really happy to hear the F-bomb.
I did too.
It makes him more real, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, because when we're frustrated, we often use the old F-bomb, particularly as Australians. I mean, I know.
But do you know it's an NLP strategy?
No, I did not know that.
And yes, it is, absolutely. And I know for a fact, I can't know for a fact whether he understands NLP, but I sure as I could put money on it that he has an archetype and he has a definite system that helps him to hold his stance, to hold his certainty, to hold his composure. Like, I found myself saying to my mother, I wonder if that man sleeps, like how does a man sleep at night?
It would be, honestly, the amount of information he consumes and obviously has to be on top of, just amazing. And what are you doing? Sleeping 3 hours a night? Really?
Really. He's got, and the man has got so much posture that it's not funny. And I'm going to come back to the F-bomb.
Explain what you mean by
posture.
That.
His whole body, the way he, he's got that little tilt forward like his son, like they talked about his son having that, he's got a slight
didn't notice
that.
Yeah,
he has. You have a look next time.
Right.
And they pointed it out with his son, and because obviously with NLP you do notice all these elements. They're very important. So I noticed that he's got it as well.
Okay.
But his head still tilts forward when he's walking. So, when he is, even though his body naturally has that sway, he's still upright and his head is forward. So
It's so interesting you say this, because as you're saying, and I'm picturing him walking along, and I'm going to say this, it's a little bit different to the way that Joe Biden walked, just a little bit, just a little
just
bit,
slightly.
But you're right, he's kind of walking with purpose, isn't he?
Oh, yes. That man has got a lot of, he has to. I mean, let's not even go there. I mean, I can't even fathom the kind of certainty that he's got under his belt. But getting back to the F-bomb word.
Yes.
Okay, so it actually serves a purpose. If a person's using the F-bomb word a lot, it loses its value. It becomes callous. It becomes all of those things. But when someone like Mr. Trump never says it, and then all of a sudden he turns around and says, because those two countries don't know what the F they're doing, right? Suddenly everybody's listening.
It's got a different level of power.
It does.
Yeah.
And so it is an attraction of waking that person up. Yeah. It helps the person go, right, I'm going to listen to the next thing he says, because, and I can't remember what he said after that, but anyway, I reckon it must have been good.
Let's just tell something very jokingly, whatever. Okay, so please take this in the context, right? But I remember a comedian actually once was telling about the fact that they said, why are Americans so addicted to television? Well, one day they're all watching their TV, and their president got shot, when Kennedy got shot, right? And he sort of jokingly said, we've been watching ever since because, something big's going to happen.
I
know,
but anticipation.
But kind of on that level, now, the way, and that's a morbid, horrible thing, but at the same time, it's exactly that. Like he's lifted the energy, right? Okay, he's lifted the level of people's attention.
Yeah,
on this, right?
he really, really has.
Yeah.
And it's how do you hold that composure? And I have to say, I'm utilizing Donald Trump as a classic example because the opposite to self-confidence is self-consciousness.
Okay.
So
now, please explain.
Yeah. So if a person walks across a room or they're walking onto a stage, a lot of people will internalize, how am I walking? What are people looking at? How are people perceiving me? And that whole monkey mind stuff is going on, in the background, and it's causing the person to kind of shrink because it's suddenly about themselves.
Now, I often have seen that. And people are looking down at the ground, right? And they're shrinking their body. They're looking down, they're curving in, if you like.
Yeah.
Which is, look, and I get it, because I've been in that situation of walking onto a stage, and sometimes when you walk onto a stage, you walk on with great confidence, like, hey, I own the place, right?
Yeah.
Other times you walk and you don't feel so confident, right? And you do realize that you're conscious of the way your legs are moving. Okay, you walk every day. I've been doing this walking for a bit now.
You might start walking sideways.
Yeah. But then you kind of walking in front of, there could be thousands and thousands of people in front of you, and you're going, you're almost in your mind kind of going left, right.
Yeah.
But you take it to a different level of consciousness, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it's the self-conscious, I guess, right?
Yeah. So, this is where it becomes classic, that what happens is that when a person is doing something that's about themselves, it does have a whole lot of self-consciousness, less certainty, less,
Agreed.
It's kind of an inward thing. Now, there's a time and a place. We do have to be present. It's good to be in the body. Like, are you in your body right now?
Yeah, I am actually.
You are. That's great. So it means that you're here.
Yep.
You're not thinking like what's going to happen after the show.
I'm always a little bit like that. The mind's always going a little bit.
I don't know, Aaron. I feel like you are pretty present on every show.
I'm definitely very present. No, I just meant like, I don't know. My mind is a bit.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a crazy zone. I mean, the hamster is on the wheel going pretty nuts.
But we do our best work when we are present.
I agree.
But there is it's almost like bending time. So bending time does actually take a few little back flips and front flips
Yep.
in order to be able to do it, right?
Okay.
You always smile when I talk about bending time.
Well,
It's like it's a magical thing or something.
But because again, I relate it to my own life because when you hear the term, it sounds a bit woohoo, right?
It does, definitely.
But like anything, I can relate it to motor racing.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
when you are going truly fast, when you're racing really well and you're very you're waiting through the corner, wait. You know, these small little tiny increments. You're absolutely in the moment, and you slow time down, you bend time. Now, in reality, you've gone past, right? At some ridiculous amount of speed, but in your mind, you've gone through there, and there's been 30 little adjustments on the wheel and your pedals, and
that's right.
And that. So I get
you're
the concept.
Stretching it.
You are
stretching time,
and you're waiting because you're waiting for the apex, Then as you squeeze the throttle on, and so why I smile is because that is something I can very much relate to. 100%.
Yes, because I see you bending time every Thursday. And that is that you usually say we've got about 1 minute. And in that 1 minute, in the space of 1 minute, what can happen in the life of Aaron Malloy is a whole new level because you treat 1 minute like it's a week.
Ladies, don't complain about a minute, right? Boom, boom.
But so that's bending time. But we're talking about that that stage confidence and having the presence so that you are inside your body, so that you are very much here and now and you're not anywhere else. However, at the same time, this is where it becomes a bit of a trick photography. You are outward focused. So your mission is you shrink yourself down to being like a little grain of sand in the scheme of things. So anything that's going on in your life becomes so insignificant, and what's going on in the world. So for Donald Trump, for example, his mission is so phenomenally massive, we can't even comprehend it, right?
Now, that would terrify most people to absorb that much stress and anxiety, because there'll be anxiety, right? No matter how confident you are, you've got a anxiety for success. Right?
Yes. But you can only imagine, like I can't imagine for one moment the mission that he has and the DNA that runs through his whole circular system to make that operate the way it does. But I have my own mission. And, you know, quite often with people who are very orientated, for example, on helping people. And I think a lot of us around here are a bit that way.
It's very much our thing.
You know, so, you know, when the chips are down, we're there. We're there for that. And, you know, they often say that person, like the firefighters, the fireys, they're very much like, boom, it's adrenaline. They're in their body, but they're also bending time, and they've got to have a lot of certainty. They've got to have a lot of confidence. So they've got to go in with all of that. And yet it must be heart-wrenching for some of them to be pulling out, you know, the innocent people that are trapped in fires. I mean, I don't want to go down that road because I know
I have actually dealt with people who have been in that like that profession, and in fact, I actually learned a lot from a firefighter from that point of view. Of when sometimes it's important to remove yourself from the situation and just basically become the task. So just get the job done, and you turn the emotional. I've had to do this many times. You turn the emotion and you turn your personality off, if you like. And you just become completely focused on the task. The task is the only thing that exists, and for that reason, you can get it done. If you don't do that, well, yes, you can be distracted and taken elsewhere.
And do you know that is the epitome of NLP? It is the model of excellence. So the study of the human brain, the study of, okay, so how does Trump operate? You know, how does the fiery operate when they're going in and, you know, into blazing fire and they're saving that person, right? And they're not self-conscious. They're not going, oh, you know, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? You know, they are very much present. They're very much on fire and they've got that, no pun intended, but, you know, they've got that passion.
Sure.
But, you know, one of the trainings that I remember hearing, you know, Bill the Fiery, who was very good at that, and he was absolutely achieved the highest awards for what he did. But the problem was that when there wasn't a fire, Bill sometimes got around with matches in his pocket. So it kind of just,
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
Well, the need for the adrenaline, right? Because it becomes, you need to feed the beast.
Well, absolutely. It's the same with doctors. You know, are doctors actually in some ways, I used to think this about Ian, like, you know, what happens if every single person on the planet had a great back? And they were suddenly perfect. And
he's suddenly very unemployed.
You know, suddenly you're out of action. So, you know, I could be the same for all I know, you know, completely drama orientated.
Well, come on, Derek.
That would never happen.
No.
Gotcha. Oh, my gosh, that laugh. But no, you know, this is what I'm saying is being outward focused shifts that focus from that self-consciousness into a mission, vision, and passion. And when you can get out of the way of yourself and be inside your body, know your mission, know your vision. But if you were walking on the stage, see, if I had to walk on a stage and talk about something that I didn't know anything about, can you imagine? I'd think of something. But I would die with self-consciousness and awkwardness.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I would. I would totally feel, I would feel almost scrutinized.
Okay. Can I give you a counterpoint to that?
Yeah.
I've been in that situation.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And what I did is, okay, you go and then because situations changed and all of a sudden I'm not actually, I don't know, not in the place that I would want to be. Okay, something's changed that has meant that it's now an uncomfortable place. The way that I've dealt with it is I just have a little bit of a kind of slow down a little bit, and then what I do is I use the energy of the crowd. So I literally, okay, so if I feel that I've lost that power within me, I'll just go, hang on, I'll just have some of yours, thanks, and just start vacuuming
Channeling.
it up. Yeah, and I just bring that energy into myself from the audience, from the crowd.
Wow.
And then that gives you, it's like, as silly as it sounds, it's like putting the jumper leads on the car. All of a sudden, oh, hang on, the battery's good again. I'm working on the alternator, off I go. Because you've had that moment or few moments of going, okay, you know what, I'm out of my depth here, or as I say, you know, something's happened that I can't control. Instead of panicking, just know, you know what, be a sponge and suck up some energy from other people.
But see how you were doing that almost subconsciously, where, you know, drawing that energy and everything else. It's like I was doing a podcast last night and I knew the girl was quite nervous, and she was also having, you know, she was getting hot, and I could see this. So while we were backstage, I said to her, look, I do a little thing before we start the podcast.
Right.
And what that is, and I mean, look, every single person that I interview, they know something more than I do, and they can teach me something that I don't know, which is absolutely incredible. This has got nothing to do with knowledge. But this had everything to do with confidence. Okay. So, you know, she may have thought, oh, you know, what if I foul it up, or what if I stumble over my words, or, you know, what if, all of those things. And I could hear her. She was actually speaking to me out loud. I hope I don't do this, and I hope I don't do that. And I said, can you just stop here for a moment? And I said, look, if you foul this up, it's on me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm saying, okay, I believe in you. I have got you on this show for a reason.
Yep.
And it is up to me to ask you the questions that I don't know the answer to, but we've already discussed because we've gone into this deep dive backstage together. Okay. And I have been able to extract some information from you. And so therefore, when you're speaking about it, you've got to know exactly what you're talking about because it came from you. You didn't have to learn anything from me. No. Do you know what I mean?
I do know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So, you know, she sort of calmed down a little, and then we did a little quantum jump. So the trick is, and I can say this very briefly, is that what I did was, apart from obviously getting her to become very present with herself. So how do you get a person to become present? Well, if they're very anxious and they're sort of outside of their body and they're thinking to them, you know, they're too busy in their head, to get them back into their mind, you begin to get them to feel into their skin. Maybe
Okay. Can you explain that to me a little
like,
bit?
okay, so it may be, I wonder which hand feels cooler or warmer right now.
Okay.
And I wonder if you were to just check your breath, whether you could assess whether you are breathing from the stomach or from the chest. And you might turn them to the feet. I'm just giving you a lot of examples here all at once. So the soles of your feet, I wonder if one foot actually feels warmer than the other. So
I'm checking right now.
Yeah, so see, this is what happens. The person goes inside. So a few deep breaths does center the nervous system.
Okay.
Then we simply quantum leap to the end of the show. I say, okay, let's go 1 hour from now, remembering we want them to be present on the show.
For sure.
But we want to take them to the end so they can experience, like, what's it like to feel so inspired, like, wow, that was the best show ever. That was incredible. How do you feel? How do you look? What are you saying to yourself? How does that feel in your body? Where do you feel it?
So you are, okay, they're creating and they're painting the picture of the success of the podcast, and then you go back and do the podcast and they're already in that space. Is that what you're saying?
Perfect.
Okay.
Boom. And what you're doing is, from the time you get them to the end, and it's always good to have a good facilitator to do this. So we haven't done this on Edge yet. You know, maybe we should do that. Only takes a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So at that point of being at the end, where you are, you know, you're congratulating yourself, you're applauding yourself, you're saying, oh, actually, that's okay. But also, if it was nervous, you know, like standing up, giving a speech, or if you were giving a lecture or a tutorial or something like that, you're sort of like, oh, it's done. You know, that feeling?
Yeah.
And then, oh, it wasn't so bad after all. And maybe it was great.
Well, if you're feeling the relief, right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing too, because a lot of people just build up that anxiety, build up that pressure on themselves. And if you could take it, you're very interested in this NLP. Like, I mean, honestly, you talk about, you know, on many occasions, as far as taking yourself back to that particular point. Well, this is just doing the same thing, but the other direction, right?
Exactly. It's time bending. That's what time bending is all about.
Gotcha.
So when you jump forward in time, so if someone is nervous about something they're going to do, so for that podcast, that lady there, I'm going, okay, and then I reverse engineer. So I bring her back. So as I bring her back to the end of the show, and like, you're in momentum here, girl. You know, you're just going and you're just on fire. And then you're coming back into the center of the show, and then back to the beginning of the show. And then by the time you come back into the present, into your body and feel it, you've tricked your subconscious mind into going, it's done. It's a done deal.
It's done.
And I guarantee Donald Trump has these visions of his mission, of what he wants, like how he wants to create world peace, how he wants to negotiate and liaise. And he knows he's a great businessman, and he is the best probably negotiator, you know, around on the planet Earth. So he is probably in that position where he can negotiate with the hierarchy of Israel and the hierarchy of Iran. And then, you know, so even whether it works out or not, it's like he's got this mission in his mind, and there's probably a titch of ego that's in there. I mean,
just a touch, huge ego. I'm one of the people in the world who doesn't believe that ego is a dirty word.
Yeah.
I think ego is important.
Yeah.
Okay, I think ego puts the fire that you need to get things done. Without ego, it's when people become egomaniacs. I mean, and then lean on the word maniac, right? It's really not a pleasant word, But ego itself, if you use it and you harness it, now with him, very much sort of on thought of what you're saying is that, okay, if you look at the end goal, okay, and you know, okay, this is what I'm going to achieve. Well, you got to get there, right? Okay,
you do.
But if you know the finishing line, well, it's I don't know, it's easier to race to the finishing line than it is to race if you don't know when it finishes.
It's a done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sort of pre-set your mind saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I've achieved this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like the coaches,
Mm.
that story about history where they broke a record because the coach actually told a little white lie
Yeah.
about the world record. So just to stretch that,
Mhm.
to lift that ceiling. So, I mean, getting back to his mission, I mean, I don't know what goes on in his mind, but I'd say he must have a very strong mission and vision in his mind. And also because it's compelling and is the fact that he can make it happen.
Look,
So,
the
there's
moment
confidence.
I agree. I mean, the moment he got up after being, shot at, and someone tried to take his life, a bullet, literally millimeters away from ending his life, and to still be on mission with his fight. To me, that's one of the most defining moments of the entire world in history. Well, certainly in my lifetime. And for those out there who hate the man, like I often say, I would never invite him to a dinner party. I think he would drive me nuts. But I am a fan. Simple as that. I actually believe he's got a lot of empathy. I believe he actually really truly understands people and who wants to. He has, like, it's virtuous. He actually genuine, not fake virtue, not virtue signaling, genuine virtue. I think he really wants to make every American's life better. And if you base it on that, if you don't believe all the hype and the carry on, you see exactly, and he's got that mission. He sees that goal.
Yeah.
He sees America as great again, and he's doing whatever he can do to take it there.
To make it happen.
He's got the goal inside.
Yeah. So this is the same with, I mean, little old you and me, not to be too humble about it, but, when we set our goals and we set our mission, if we can have, and a greater cause as well, I mean, let's face it, God's going to hear those goals of world peace. He's going to hear these goals of you doing freedom of speech. He's going to hear these goals of, me wanting to have 1 million lives transformed, not because I'm going to do it, but because I can do a podcast where I've got so many people coming on that can help me do it. Do you know what I mean? It's a mission.
You share it to people and they share it and they share it and share it. And, one person can make a massive difference. That's the thing. And you've got to have confidence in that.
Yes. So, shall we go to a couple of questions?
Well, we could.
Have we got time?
Well, of course we have. No, we've definitely got time, but I am completely unprepared. So there we go. Let me jump in because
the genius
there
zone.
We are. Let's jump into the questions. So this question is from Brandon in California.
This is an emergency. Can you hear those sirens going off?
Tell you what, we are downtown, baby. That's where we are.
Ready to rock and roll.
Okay, we'll just wait for the siren. There we go. Now, Brandon, great to have a message from California. Thanks for the question, mate. I love watching the replays. Good man. There we go. Can you give me a few tips on how to build confidence for big meetings? I get the chills just thinking about them and speaking in front of a group.
Okay. Well, interestingly, Brandon, I did check out some of these questions before I came on.
Oh, a bit of prep.
And I have to say, you know what I just said, Brandon, about the podcast? So just to give it a little bit of conscious competency here, when you are going into the meeting, from that point, go to the end. Go to the end of the meeting and visualize yourself that you have already spoken. How do you look? How do you feel? How did you sound? What kind of effect did you have when you were speaking? Okay. Now, bringing it back to now, make sure you're in your physical body. Now, taking a few deep breaths, like I said, 3 deep breaths, perhaps just feeling your hands. We do that if it's a hypnotic induction. I'm not asking you to do a hypnotic induction, but, just with yourself, where you just even censoring the way your clothing feels,
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Thanks, Brandon. And we'll keep going on your question, mate, but this is kind of related. That's very interesting because I often find, I mean, I've done a lot of public speaking and a lot of big events and some crazy big ones that like literally kind of took my breath away. Okay. And I do this. Okay. I have a little, I find myself doing that. Now when I'm learning about myself as I'm doing this. But when I'm centering, I'm doing it as I'm centering myself. I do that.
There you go.
Boom.
There's I noticed Steve J. Jones, he's a bit famous in the NLP world, but he always does this, and
Right.
it just seems so, it's very stealthy. But you're sort of doing something nobody knows. But the one that you saw me do, that's a real rev up.
Okay.
So that is one that fires you up as if you are going to go on stage, especially if you need it.
Yeah.
So I use it in extreme cases, but actually it's a standing thing. So in short, you heard what Aaron just said. So Aaron uses his fingers to touch. So now that he's said it, it becomes now more conscious to the subconscious.
Just put the hand under there. No one can see what I'm doing.
End up, levitating up to the ceiling.
Okay, exactly. Well, on that front though, this is really cool because I joke about being a little bit OCD about things and whatever, and like people often think that I'm just super confident about what I do, and I'm pretty confident.
But you are, because it's what you do.
Well, it is what I do. But hang on, this is what I'm going to say. Now, Brandon, who you want some tips on building confidence because you're worried about speaking in front of a group. I have literally worn off the fingerprints on those fingers because I do that. And I just realising from what you've said, because I didn't know this about myself, I just thought it was annoying, right?
That's
to myself.
amazing.
This is clearly me centering myself and actually, closing out the rest of the world, focusing in, being present in the moment, and you do a little like that. So,
amazing.
there's literally two little worn bits of...
So his fingerprint is now different to what it was last year.
That's spot on.
Now we know. Oh. So that's really cool. So that there, what Aaron just said, what he said. And furthermore, don't focus in on yourself. It's better to really... are you away motivated or are you toward motivated? Look, I'll put money on it. I don't know this for a fact, but my opinion is Donald Trump is very away motivated.
I actually agree with you. Yeah.
So away motivated, for those viewers out there, is, you can do it with your kids, you can do it with your family and people. You get to know what moves them, what moves and shakes people. And you'll find that if they're the toward motivated, it's usually, well, if you do this, this is going to happen. Something good is going to happen. Okay. And that's the toward motivated. Whereas, look, if this doesn't happen, the world's going to blow up. So, whoa, and then you watch people go. But not different everybody motivation. Is going to actually respond that way.
Of course not.
So, Brandon, are you away motivated or are you toward motivated? And when you figure that out, think about what it's going to mean for you to say in the meeting, what you're going to say. What is it going to mean that's going to take you toward that process? So if you are away motivated, what's going to happen if what you say doesn't happen? So there's a lot of thought leadership in there as well.
I have a saying on this one. Okay. Now I have a mirror. I'm aware of, what I look like, right? But I'm very happy to approach.
How handsome you are. Then.
So not, right? Okay. I am the master of bad lighting. Thank you. Right. But where I'm going on this is I used this particularly when I was growing up, in your 20s and all of that sort of thing. And you'd approach a girl in a bar or whatever. Okay. And I used to always say, nobody ever spontaneously combusted because a girl said no. Okay.
That's good.
Right?
I like that.
You're not just going to catch fire. Okay.
And then you might laugh thinking about it.
Yeah, you do. It gives you a bit of a giggle and kind of gives you the confidence going in, right? Because, that's me in my silly 20s dating kind of situation. But the same in my eyes, anyway, relates to that. Okay. If you walk into that meeting, okay, and you want to, portray what you want to portray, you want to sell what you want to sell, or present what you want to present. Okay. If you walk and I don't know, you completely screw it up. Okay, you trip over, right? Is anyone going to die? Right?
Well, maybe not.
Is it going to be the end of the world? No, it's not. I think people need to remember that everyone in that meeting has the same anxieties as you.
True.
Right? So just go.
Hence the pajamas. Like, how they used to say, imagine everybody wearing their pajamas.
Well, they used to say, do it naked. Like, you've never heard that one? Come on.
Imagine everybody in their undies.
It's a pretty exciting meeting. But it depends where you are, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
not in the aged care centre.
You've just ruined that for me. But what I'm getting at is like, okay, is everybody else has the same anxieties as you
Exactly. We're all
about the
human.
presentation, all that kind of thing. We're all human. So, okay, we can, good people can empathise with that.
Yeah.
So walk in, know that you're with your equals. Don't ever think you're below anybody.
Yeah,
right? That's
that's
really
right.
important. Walk in,
really
know that we're on the
true.
same pegging, and off we go from there.
Yeah, that is so true, because that is actually a big deal of a lot of it. A lot of people put themselves down.
Yeah.
You know, because the shoe always looks better on the other foot, or the grass always looks greener on the other side.
It does.
Yes. Next question.
Well, actually, you've just got
I
another
hope
question.
that I did finalise that question okay, actually. So go back and listen to that.
I think we should. Now, Jaron, great to see you there, mate. Fantastic, very short message, a bit of a laugh. And he's PM, which I believe he may be himself.
PMing?
Yes.
Okay. Good one.
PM, do you know what PM is?
Yeah, it means a private message. So private message.
I don't think in this context it does, but that's okay.
Okay,
we'll
maybe not DM, PM. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not sure.
Well, leave
Anyway,
the rest to the imagination.
I like it. I think it's a bit of a giggle.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Let's jump to this next question, if I may. So, bring up on the screen. What have we got? Now, Karen from South Australia. We haven't had many questions from South Australia. Come on, South Australians.
Hello, Karen.
Good on you. Is it Karen or Karen?
Karen.
Karen. There we go. Karen. Okay. I've got a real fear of public speaking. Everybody's got a fear of public speaking.
They reckon it's actually even number one to fear of dying, you know. That's
Really?
what I've heard, yeah.
I'm far more afraid of dying than, well.
Oh, yeah.
I
agree.
I'm not
Well,
even,
you are a speaker. You're a born speaker.
Yeah, but I'm also not scared of dying. So there we go. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit strange.
You don't count. You don't count in that.
Okay, I'm an outlier. This is from Karen now. But I've been invited to speak at a hypnosis conference this year. Any tips to help me face the stage without freaking out, man?
Karen, congratulations. And cool. I know I spoke at that one last year.
Okay. And
it was really fun. There's always that element of anxiety that you're going to have. I mean, otherwise check your pulse, girl, because, I mean, we all will feel that element of anxiety. But I do happen to know Karen is trained in NLP. So if I may jump, hop, skip and jump here for a second and say to you, Karen, what I would do is set up 3 anchors. And just for the audience, 3 anchors is exactly what you heard Aaron talking about. Now, the only difference is with the fingers, he was talking about, you know, how he's grinded his skin away on his fingers. So when you are setting up the anchors, see what's probably happened to Aaron, which I don't know for a fact, but I'm presuming, is he has subconsciously developed this, and it's happened to be in a context where he has maybe been speaking or doing something that's, you know, exciting and engaging, right? So what's happened is the subconscious mind's gone grab, because, you know, that's like triggers.
Okay.
So we get triggered and we hold triggers in our body, which are negative. Triggers are negative, right? We hold them in our body, so we get triggered. But when we're happy and when we're, you know, excited and inspired, we don't get triggered. We're more relaxed. So we have to set up deliberate triggers. So this is an anchor. So let's just say this here is Aaron's anchor. So in your case, Karen, and I'm saying this because I know you know what I'm talking about, what 3 things do you want to feel when you are on stage? Let's just give a little bit of a, you know, example.
Well, you want to feel confident.
Okay, confidence one. What else?
You got to own the space.
Okay, own the space. So certainty.
Yeah.
Would that be, so confident, owning the space, feeling certain.
Posture.
Anything else? Posture. Okay. So posture. So strong. So let's say posture, strong, you know, owning the space, certainty and confident. So in this case, what you would do, Karen knows what to do, but for that person who doesn't know the first thing about NLP or anchoring, find 3 memories, write them down, right? When did I feel confident? Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I was on stage when I was 14 years old. True story. You know, doing this little, you know, up there Kazales. That's how I
love that song.
Yeah, and I was wearing this little red satin pair of shorts and this red and white football jumper, and I had a ball. I absolutely had a ball. So I anchor that all the time. I go back to that memory and remember, I was only 14, 15 years old, but geez, I felt good. And I just anchor that every second time. And so then you find another one. So you go owning that space. So when did you own space? You know, it could have been when you were getting married, or you might have been in a party, or you might have been with, you know, I don't know, somebody where you just felt really good, but you felt like you were owning that space.
Okay.
So you remember that, but what did you feel? What did you see? And what were you hearing? And then anchor it.
Okay.
See, you did it by default. I don't know, but I think you did it by default. No, I didn't
plan it. Trust me.
You didn't plan it, but see, you've anchored it, and now it's subconsciously in there. So you can use that all the time. So I'm going to suggest to Karen, you do that 3 fond memories, anchor it in, and away you go. Let me know how you get on.
I like that. I like that a lot. Just to let everyone know, there are people sending messages on other platforms we can't see, which is a bit of a shame, because it's just giving me the little indication of that again, about the 3rd time now. So thank you so much for your messages, and obviously we'll look at those through the week. And if you've got questions you want to bring up on the show, maybe that's a good way of doing it too. Pop them up, and we can look through the week and put them forward. That is just brilliant. Now we've done Karen, so now it's time to do Darren. Okay, now Darren,
I'm sure, as in Darren Brown.
Okay,
I wish.
I hope it's not Darren Hinch. That's all I'm saying.
Is he still alive?
I think so.
Okay,
that's life, right?
Darren Hinch.
Darren Hinch.
But do you know who Darren Brown is?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to say it because it's NLP anyway.
Yeah.
He's sleight of mouth, sleight of hand, sleight of everything. So he's a magician though. So he kind of makes fun out of it. But he, anyway, go follow him, Darren Brown. Anyway, over to you. Over to you, Aaron. Sorry.
Fine. Well, Darren, you're all the way from the UK, mate. Really great to have your message. And I don't know if you're watching this on the replay or live, because, you know, obviously the time difference, but that is the wonderful thing about Edge being international.
No, he could be actually, because UK is good time zone.
Is it? Okay, see, you're on top of these things. I don't know. You from the UK, as I say, I've heard Aaron and Terry talk about rewiring the mind before. Now, not being a skeptic, but how exactly do you rewire your brain? It sounds too far-fetched to be real.
Oh, my
Mate, I love this question, because this is so me.
You had to ask that on the 11th hour, right?
Yeah, well, I'm the skeptic.
At the end of the show. We need a whole show
I want
on
evidence.
that.
Yeah, but I get that.
Yeah.
Hang on. Well, I think it's a great question, mate. Okay, and may I take the floor on this one for a moment?
Please do.
In my opinion, okay, how does it work for me as far as rewiring the brain? I had to have a moment of a conscious decision that I had to say to myself, right, okay, there's some problems in your life, Aaron, okay? There's some things, and guess what? You're the common denominator, right?
That's so cool.
You got to, self-responsibility, okay? Own it. And we don't want to own it, okay? Things that are going bad or bad mistakes or whatever, okay? So some crappy stuff was going on in my life. And I had to go, hang on, well, you know what? Ultimately, yes, people did some really horrible stuff. But did I open the door? Did I keep it open? Did I kind of lay out the welcome mat? Bloody hell I did, right? So I've got to own my part of it. So I took, some of your wonderful advice. I looked at the way I was phrasing things in my brain, and I thought to myself, okay, phrase it differently. Okay.
Reframe it.
Damn, reframe it. Look at you go.
Rephrase, I love it.
But it's just and they're very similar words, right? But put them in a different context.
Yes.
Now, I had a girlfriend years ago who used to say, words are important, language is important. And I used to think, shut the okay, because, she didn't like the way I said particular things, right? It wasn't the contents of it. She didn't like the way I framed it.
Right.
Okay.
The way you framed it.
Yes. And so, and I just thought, no, look, I believe in telling the truth. I believe in being, down the line rather honest about my feelings, right? Okay. But I didn't package it particularly well. So at the time I thought, oh yeah, well, okay, whatever. And I kind of did the eye roll.
But you'd be a really good reframer.
Well, I hope so.
I mean, I think if you were bailed up, and like what she's done, you'd be able to kind of like shift it.
I can shift. Yeah,
I reckon you could.
No, and I did. I spun it the way that she wanted it spun.
Okay,
and I don't want people to be disingenuous, right? I don't want you to lie about who you are, but yes, sometimes it has, as far as directly talking about what Darren's talked
How
about,
you look at it.
being a skeptic here.
Mm.
Yeah, by just reframing
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
a different meaning to them, has different meaning to you. When it has a different a frame to both people, the reactions are different, and it brings
So
positive
true.
stuff to your life.
Mm.
So you attract positivity rather than, so you're not walking around with a shield up. Okay, you kind of spun the shield down. It becomes a bit of a, I don't know, a bowl that it kind of attracts positive stuff. That sounds stupid, but
it's true.
We live in a life where so often we're being so defensive. Stop it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just open your heart and actually yes, reframe things. So that's from my point of view. I'd love to hear your
He's
opinion.
becoming just so philosophical. I cannot believe it. That was just gold right
I
there.
know about that.
I've forgotten the question. That was
okay, there we go.
So into that.
Darren is actually asked, okay, he asked.
About the rewiring.
Yep.
Well, look, what can I say? Look, the only thing I could add to what Aaron just said, because reframing is just so powerful. And from layman's terms, what Aaron has just said is absolutely perfect. Like, how could you reframe? What can you do? Like, get a situation. How can you reframe it? How else could you look at it? Like, could you tilt it this way? Could you look at it from this angle? Could you look at it from a professor's mind, a neighbor's mind, your mother's mind, this person, that person, and just see if you can shift it? I reckon that's brilliant. From the, like, if you were involved in a heavy session, for example, we do a timelining, and we're going to go into it in another couple of weeks when we have a guy coming onto the show.
Yep.
And he talks about this rewiring and rebirthing. So you're going to have to watch that. That's coming up. So it's really about reprogramming, because your brain is really a program, and everything that you're doing is because you've programmed yourself that way, and it's been programmed since you were probably developed between the ages of 0 and 7. Okay. So your map of the world, and then you've added pieces onto it, and then you've developed patterns and habits and so forth. So really what you're doing is you're saying, well, okay, what if I could just scrub that? What if I could scratch that?
Yeah.
That specific one, not that you can just wipe everything out, because you can't. But let's just scratch that one there where I get a phobia about spiders, or I get phobic about, seeing every time I see that person. Can we scratch that, and how can we relive it? So you can start doing it yourself by simply reenacting how you would want to be. So that's a form of rewiring. But when you do it with a coach or a professional person who knows what they're doing with the subconscious mind, it's actually really powerful.
I agree. Look, it's changed my life. So there you go.
And we're going to do a workshop one day soon here, aren't we? At Edge
awesome.
Radio.
Why not? Well, good.
Yeah.
We've got a great space for it. Why not?
Yes.
I would say just this in closing, because we've got to end the show.
Yes, I know.
But I'll throw this out as far as for Darren's question. Okay, maybe think of your life as a movie and you be the director.
Beautiful.
All right,
let's
get out of here. Thank you so much. That we have some more questions we can't see, as I say, and some that we can, but we'll get to those in the weeks coming, so which would be fantastic. Thank you, Terry, for coming in. Thank you for the lovely bubblies. Right, it's always nice to kick back with you, and I mean, it's Thursday, but it's so easy. It could be Friday, right? Okay,
yeah.
It's Friday somewhere.
It's Friday somewhere in the world.
I don't think it is. We don't need to worry about those kind of details. Thanks for being part of the Genius Zone. It is an absolute pleasure. And if you want to catch the replay, you can at what time on a Sunday? The audio
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Edge Radio.
Reheat the pizza.
That's right. Reheat the pizza. It happens. All the great shows that we play through the week. Many of them you can actually catch on Sunday. The replays on edgeradioaustralia.com. You hit the little play button. Off you go, and you can listen. Really exciting stuff coming our way too. A new app, new and improved apps coming our way. Exciting. A little another way of listening to Edge is coming our way as well. Lots of really cool things to go. But it wouldn't happen if we didn't have fantastic shows and fantastic people like Terry on air. So thanks for being part of the Genius Zone here at Edge Radio.